After being forced to submit to her stepfather, the girl ran to her mother seeking support, protection, salvation from that monster. She expected comfort, refuge, but her mother's response would leave her in shock. Isabella's childhood had never been easy, but everything fell apart when her mother brought home a stranger, a man who reeked of alcohol, spat on the floor, and smoked cigarettes made of dirty paper. That day, without her knowing, the girl stopped being just a country girl, became easy prey. At just 8 years old, her innocence was brutally taken away, without warning, without mercy, forever. Isabella lived with her mother and 2 younger brothers in a forgotten place in the world, where there was only forest, dust, and silence. The house was small, isolated, far from any city. There was no school, no neighbors either, just distant farms and the mother's hope of finding work as a day laborer for a few bucks. Isabella's father had already left before she could even crawl. The mother did what she could to raise her children alone. Sometimes the possible was a dry loaf of bread divided into 4. The impossible was maintaining dignity in the face of hunger. Then, that man appeared, and the mother sighed in relief. He brought food, rice, beans, meat. He said he wanted to start a family. He was fat, had a deep voice, and was too cheerful for someone who drank so much. His name was Osmar, and he settled into the house as if he had always lived there. But Isabella was the first to feel something wrong. At first there were long hugs, touches on her hair and shoulders, smiles inappropriate for her age. She felt repulsed without understanding why. She just knew she didn't like it. And when she said she wanted to be alone, he laughed. "You're so beautiful," he said, as his hand touched her in the wrong place at the wrong time. One afternoon, with his mother gone and his brothers far away, the monster decided he had waited long enough. Isabella was playing with stones and bottle caps under a tree when he approached, crouched down behind her without delicacy, picked her up and hugged her tightly. She tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip, saying they could play in another way. She denied it, tried to call her brothers, but her mouth was covered, and her body was dragged into the house. There, Isabella learned the true meaning of fear, the kind that paralyzes the legs, steals the air, sticks to the skin like indelible dirt, a fear that persists long after the act, because the body survives, but the soul bleeds for much longer. When he finished, he threw her on the bed like a rag, threatening to kill her if she told anyone. Isabella was 8 years old. What could I do? She ran into the woods, hid among the bushes, huddled, shaking, crying for hours, feeling dirty, lost, empty. At dusk, she heard her mother's voice calling her, and for a moment she thought that everything would end, that her mother would hug her, take her out of that hell. But what happened was even worse. Isabella ran into her mother's arms, begging for affection and protection, but she received a push, an icy look, a cutting question. "Where have you been, girl?" Isabella, nervous, could barely speak. "Mom, Osmar, he did bad things to me." Her mother's eyes widened, not with compassion, but with disbelief. "What are you talking about, Isabella?" He picked me up, took me inside, hurt me. It hurt a lot, Mom. Blood came out. I asked him to stop. I screamed, but he threatened me. I was so scared. Mom, calm down. I'm sure of what I'm saying. I don't want to be alone with him anymore. I don't want it anymore. We could go away, Mom, please." The girl's eyes were imploring. The mother stepped away, lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, as if calculating something. Then she replied coldly, "Look, Isabella, you have to understand. Life is not easy. No man wants a woman with 3 small children. It's very difficult to find someone who accepts us like that." Isabella blinked, confused. "But Mom, he did something wrong. He hurt me." "I know it's hard, but try to understand his side too. There are men who like younger girls, and Osmar helps us. He brings food. Do you think it's easy raising the 3 of you alone? He can't do this to me, Mom. I'm a child." The mother bent down and held her daughter's face tightly. "Isabella, you were a child. But after what happened, after that blood, now you are a woman. You can already understand how life works." "I don't want to, Mom. Please, I don't want this anymore, Mom." Isabella spoke without being able to breathe properly. "Look, Isabella, if you love me and you love your brothers, then you need to help. You need to do whatever it takes to keep the family together. Don't bother Osmar. If he gets mad and leaves, how are we going to eat? If one day he leaves, it will be your fault." The girl, desperate, tried once more. I don't want him to do that to me anymore, Mom, please. You'll have to learn, Isabella. You'll have to get used to it. That day, Isabella understood that she was alone in the world. For her mother, she was not a daughter, but a bargaining chip. In the following days, there were no complaints, no screams, only repeated nights of silence and despair. For years, Isabella slept with her brothers in the same room, but every night she was taken in silence to the back of the house, where the horror repeated itself. There, no one listened to her, stopped her, saved her. It was 5 long years of pain inside her own home. 5 years without school, affection, freedom, childhood, only fear and submission. Over time, her body changed. The sweet little girl disappeared. Her voice deepened, her features became more defined, her curves appeared, but inside, she remained hurt, broken, alone. The most pain possible. But there was. Her mother called her, sat in front of her, calm. "Now you can get pregnant, Isabella." Isabella looked at her scared. Her mother continued, "And if that happens, we'll have to pretend the child is mine." At that moment, Isabella's mother was still alive, and she was still alive. At that moment, something inside Isabella screamed so loudly that she almost fell. She realized that the horrible could become even more cruel. What's more, she didn't want to survive that. And that's when a decision was born. She would run away, get out of that hell no matter what. She would, but she was sure she would never return. And so, at 13, with her body scarred and her heart in pieces, Isabella began her journey, not in search of a bright future, but of a simple right that every human being should have from birth: peace. That night, the darkness was heavy. Each step echoed in the silence of the dry earth. The only sound was her soles scraping on the gravel. Each branch was a fright, but nothing seemed worse than staying in that house. She kept walking for hours, the bushes closing in on both sides. Sometimes she heard sounds from the forest, crickets, birds, maybe some bigger animal. Her head created monsters, but the fear of continuing was less than the terror of going back. From the cold, her throat was scratchy with thirst. She grabbed the bottle of water and drank small sips. She counted the cookies, 3 small packages. She needed to find help soon. Hours later, she reached the side of a highway, her heart racing. There she could get a ride. A miracle happened. An old, noisy truck began to slow down, stopped a few meters away from her, and the driver opened the door. "Where are you going, girl?" he asked suspiciously. Isabella couldn't speak properly. Her face was dirty, her clothes were wrinkled, her backpack clutched to her chest. "São Paulo, I want to go to São Paulo, sir," she answered softly, almost in a whisper. He watched her for a few seconds, scratched his beard thoughtfully. "Get on there, I'll take you for a bit." Isabella looked him straight in the eyes. For a second, her fear returned. What if he was like Osmar? What if it was worse? But honestly, she had no other options. "What's happening to you, girl?" Isabella hugged her backpack, her voice broken. "I ran away because my stepfather, he did horrible things to me. My mother knew, but she didn't protect me." The truck driver, Otavio, kept his hands on the steering wheel, but his face hardened. "How old are you?" 13. He let out a long, heavy sigh. "And you don't have any relatives? No one, right?" "I just want to work. I want to go to São Paulo. There must be a vacancy there, a place for me." Otavio was silent for a few minutes. The road continued long and straight, with the sky growing brighter and brighter. So he said, "I have a cousin. She has a restaurant on the side of the road. Good people, you know. I think she can help you if you want. Work, eat right, stay there for a while." Isabella looked out the window and, for the first time in a long time, felt hope. His eyes shone. A tear slowly ran down, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was from relief, gratitude. A shy smile escaped her lips, a smile she hadn't given in over 5 years. It seemed that his luck was finally changing, that the world was giving him a new chance. Finally, things were going to change. Someone had reached out to him. The world wasn't just made of monsters. At that moment, she allowed herself to imagine a clean pillow, a warm plate, an honest job. But was that really it? Had she finally found someone who wanted to help her without wanting anything in return? Or would he be falling into a trap once again? What Isabella didn't know yet was that not every outstretched hand comes to lift her up, and that what awaited her was not the fresh start she dreamed of. It was a new type of prison, past. The sun was already high when Isabella, exhausted, ended up dozing off against the truck window. It was the slight jolt of the brakes that woke her. He went out first, turned around and reached out to help Isabella down. She hesitated for a second, but accepted. The truck was too tall for its size. About 28 years old at most, hair tied in a sloppy bun, cigarette in the corner of her mouth, apron tied in a hurry, and a dirty cloth thrown over her shoulder. She was beautiful, the kind you don't easily forget. A dirty, shrunken girl arched an eyebrow. "What's up, Tavino? Adoption now?" Ottavio smiled, but got straight to the point. "She needs help, Maria. He ran away from home. He went through a bad thing. I thought you could help her, give her a place here, a place to sleep, I don't know." Maria was silent for a few seconds, looking Isabella up and down, as if measuring an entire story with her eyes. But his gaze was not cruel. It was more curious, loaded, as if he saw something he already knew well. She gave a light sigh and nodded. "Come in, young lady, let's talk." They went to the back of the restaurant where there was a wooden bench against the kitchen wall. Maria sat down and lit another cigarette. The sound of burning embers, the smoke, was the only noise in the air. Isabella, with her backpack on her lap, sat down slowly. The feet barely reached the ground. She told almost everything, and this time she didn't even cry. Not because she had gotten over it, but because she had already spilled everything there was to spill. Puff threw the cigarette butt into a can and asked directly, "And what do you know how to do, girl?" "My mother made me do everything since I was little. And what I don't know, I'll learn quickly, I swear." Maria let out a light laugh through her nose. It wasn't mockery, it was a mixture of surprise and recognition. "You came at a good time then, because I really need help around here. The cafeteria and the inn are full and there's too much for me to handle." She stood up from her chair, resting her hands on her hips. "There's a little room in the back. It's not much, but it has a bed, a blanket, and a closet. You can sleep there. In return, you will help me with the chores around here. What do you think?" Isabella took a second, perhaps because she didn't believe it. Then she felt strongly, almost as if she didn't want to miss the chance. "My God, of course I'll accept. Thank you very much, really." Maria paused and looked the girl in the eyes. "But hey, let me tell you something, Isabella. I'm not your mother. Here, no one touches you without your permission, understand?" Isabella stood still for a moment. It was the first time in years that she had heard someone say that. "No one touches you." As she walked towards the small room, Isabella held her backpack tightly against her chest. But now it was different. Her eyes shone, and a shy smile appeared on her face. A light, sincere smile. At that moment, she felt something that she had almost forgotten what it was like. Hope. Maybe, for the first time, everything was really going better than she had imagined. But this happiness would last a short time. Very little. During the first week at the restaurant, Isabella lived something that seemed like a dream. She ate every day, slept on a real mattress, took a bath with warm water, and most importantly, no one touched her. It was the first time in years that her body was not violated. An empty bag can't stand up. The work in the kitchen was tiring, but nothing compared to what Isabella had faced. Washing dishes, cleaning the floor, sweeping the dining room. She did it all. Silent, focused, with a discipline that impressed even the truck drivers who stopped to eat. The loudest word would make her shrug. A broken glass would make her cry with fear. She had difficulty looking anyone in the eye, but over time she began to let her guard down. Inside, but she slept. That was already a miracle. During that week, Maria didn't force any more intimate conversation. She only gave instructions on the work, complained when something was done badly, and went back to work. Until, at the beginning of the second week, everything changed. You learn, you just feel. Maria was sitting in the chair, leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette. "Let's really talk now." The girl sat down, said nothing. Maria put out her cigarette on the saucer and crossed her legs. "You see, right? This isn't a charity house. I have a lot of things to pay for, and you've been eating, sleeping, bathing, wearing clean clothes." She paused. "And it helps me, of course, but help alone doesn't pay the bills." Isabella swallowed hard. "I can work more, Maria. I can clean the front floor too. I don't mind. I can wake up earlier if I want." Maria smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "It's not that, Isabella. It's not about washing floors, it's about another way of helping." Her voice changed tone, almost friendly. "You saw, right? This is also a guest house. Truck drivers sleep here, they are alone, they are needy, and they pay well to have company, really well." The girl stood still. Look at me, Isabella. I'm not forcing you. That needs to be clear. But if you want to stay here, it's an option that will help you and help me too. Half of the money is yours, half belongs to the house. It's up to you, but if you don't want to, I'll have to ask you to leave. I can't support you like this. I've been nice for too long. Isabella felt the ground sink again. His whole body trembled. But Maria, I'm just a girl. Don't play dumb, Isabella. You've lived longer than many 20-year-old women. You've been through worse. And now you're here, clean, fed, with a chance to make some money to start over. Or do you want to go back to the side of the road? The girl did not answer. The eyes were dry. She couldn't even cry anymore. It's up to you, but you have until tomorrow to tell me. If you want to stay, the first night is tomorrow. Isabella almost vomited. She stood there for a few seconds, unable to react. Then she slowly got up, as if carrying the weight of the world, and went to her room. He closed the door with the old hook, curled up in bed, stared at the ceiling, and that night everything came back, everything. The tears came, a deep cry, long held back. Everything was so good, I almost believed that good people still existed, that maybe there was a place where I could just be a girl. But no. Once again, he discovered that the world is populated by people who approach you just to take something, who help as long as they can charge you later. That night, the nightmares returned, vivid, painfully real. Physically, he haunted her in her dreams. Isabella woke up in the middle of the night, sweating coldly, her breath held, her chest tight, her heart racing. She looked around. She was alone, but the fear persisted. Eyes, but sleep did not come. The next day was long. Isabella pretended to be normal. He washed dishes, swept the floor, chopped vegetables. Maria didn't touch on the subject anymore. She didn't smile. She just watched. At sunset, Isabella knew what she had decided. Not because I wanted to, but because there was no way out. I couldn't see anyone. I had nowhere to go. That night, Maria knocked lightly on the door. He's already taken a shower. He's waiting. Isabella did not respond. He got up and opened the door. His face was expressionless, colorless, lifeless. I'll give you half the money. Isabella went for the first time, knowing exactly what was coming. Without fear, without screams, just silent pain. The first client was the same man she had thought was her angel on the road. Ottavio, the truck driver, the man who had said he wanted to help. After that night, everything lost its meaning again. And so the following days, months and years went by. New faces, same actions, food on the table, money counted, a clean bed, but her soul increasingly dirty, more forgotten. Isabella knew. The world was not interested in her story, only in what it could take from her. And what she could give at that moment was what destroyed her the most. She understood that the nightmare could change its face, its place, its smell, but it remained the same. She felt numb. She let her body obey while her mind hid in some dark corner. At night, she left a folded envelope on the kitchen table. Half was for her, the other half Isabella received without saying anything, keeping everything in a hidden corner in the wall of the little room, behind a loose board that she had discovered by chance. Soon, she lowered her eyes, pretended not to hear, and continued cleaning. Learn to please. There are younger girls who do better than you. If you don't perform, you lose space. Isabella swallowed it all. The anger, the shame, the nausea. Everything ended up on the wall, along with the sweaty, dirty bills that he hid behind the loose board. Since he had arrived there, years had passed. 2 years trying to survive in that place, while his dignity had died long ago. But to her, it felt like 10. Now she was 15, but it seemed like time had ceased to exist. In that place there was no calendar, no counting, no good memories. The days blended together like dust. The customers' faces too. Only disgust and tiredness were constant. She didn't even remember when her birthday was. Maybe it had already passed, maybe it had even passed lying in bed with some man who paid for an hour. After all, it didn't matter. There was no room for dates or dreams there. The only thing left was surviving one day at a time, one client at a time. Sometimes she found herself looking out her bedroom window at the distant road. I watched the cars go by and wondered where they were going. I thought, what if I climbed on one of them and disappeared? But it wasn't simple. Are you going straight along on Anhanguera? I will, but only as far as the center. Then I'll take the coastal route to Sao Paulo. The name pounded in her chest like a drum. That was where she had wanted to go since she had fled. It was where no one would ask where she had come from, where she could hide, work, disappear. That night, alone in her room, she counted the money hidden behind the wall. It was a good amount, enough to pay for a few days in a boarding house and find a job. Maybe someone would let her clean the bathrooms, sweep the sidewalk, anything that didn't involve opening her legs. In the following days, she began to pay more attention to everything. The time the employees slept, the keys to the front door, the best moment to escape without being seen. She couldn't make a mistake. If she were caught, Maria could hand her over to someone worse, beat her, or throw her out on the street in the middle of the night with nothing. But Maria didn't know that Isabella was no longer that scared girl. Now she was a survivor. You go to his room, do it right. If you like it, he said, he'll come back with his friends. Isabella nodded, but inside she already knew. It would be the last time. That morning, after work, he returned to his room. He didn't cry, he didn't tremble, he didn't sleep, he just acted. He tidied everything up, folded the few clothes he had, took the money from the wall and put it in his backpack. Before leaving, he wrote a sentence on a piece of paper and left it on the bed. "Thanks for the food, Maria, but I am not your merchandise." She left through the back door, silent, empty, firm. The clock read 3:17 in the morning. The road was cold, damp, but his feet walked as if they knew the way. Firm arm. The truck stopped slowly. The driver opened the door and looked down at her. "Where are you going, girl?" Sao Paulo responded with a firm voice but without soul. "The payment, you know how it is, right?" Isabella swallowed hard, didn't blink. "I know, I'm used to it." The truck was big, noisy, and dirty. The man driving was called Donizetti. He wore a cap, an open shirt on his chest, and spoke with a soft smile on his face. The kind of man who thought that everything in life could be solved with a dirty joke or a silly hand. Isabella got into the truck with a heavy heart. "I no longer expected any more kindness. I no longer expected anything. I just wanted to get to Sao Paulo. There, perhaps there would be a job, a bathroom of her own, a room with a lock, a roof where no one could enter at night. You'll go with me to the center and we'll figure it out on the way," Donizetti said as he started the engine. She listened to him in silence. His voice seemed to refuse to come out. Hours later, on an empty road, he pulled the truck over to a dirt shoulder. "Let's settle the score, shall we, little doll?" Isabella got out of the cab with him. He pulled a tarp to the back of the truck, where there was an improvised space with an old mattress and an oil-stained sheet. She felt her stomach churn, but she didn't hesitate. "Take off your clothes, kitten," he said directly as he opened his own pants. "You're used to this, right?" She didn't answer. "It even looks professional." He laughed, as if her suffering was a joke. In Isabella's head, a single thought repeated, "It's just one more time. After this, everything will change." After he finished, he lay beside her for a few minutes, snoring, his breath reeking of cigarettes and cold coffee. She dressed slowly, grabbed her backpack, got out of the tarp, and stood outside staring into space until he woke up. Music. Hours later, they were entering the city. The size of Sao Paulo scared her. Cars everywhere, tall buildings, horns, people running. An anthill of concrete. Fear almost made her ask to go back, but there was no turning back. "If you need another ride, you already know how to pay." Donizetti blinked. She turned her head away without answering. She entered the guest house. A short man with a frowning face and a dirty t-shirt greeted her. "How much is the room per night?" $40 with payment in advance." She opened her backpack and took out the money. The man glanced too quickly at the contents of the backpack. His eyes sparkled for a second. She noticed but said nothing. "Just one night." She held out the note. He handed her the key. "Room 7. Upstairs to the left." The room was small, with a box spring bed, a sink, an old closet, and a broken ceiling fan, but it was cleaner than the truck's mattress. She locked the door, closed the window, and hid the money under the mattress. Then she took a shower, the first in a long time, without rushing or being afraid. She slept for a few hours and woke up determined to look for work. She walked through busy streets, knocking on doors, asking in bakeries, grocery stores, and beauty salons. "Do you need a helper, a washer, a cleaner, anything, lady, please?" But no one would accept her. "Do you have any documents? Have you ever worked with a signed contract? How old are you again?" The doors closed, and so did her hopes. Tired, with her feet throbbing and her soul discouraged, she returned to the boarding house late in the afternoon. She climbed the stairs slowly, as if carrying stones on her shoulders. She opened the bedroom door and went straight to check where she had put the money. She lifted the mattress, stuck her hand in the false bottom of her backpack, opened the closet, crawled under the bed, and nothing. The money, everything she had in the world, was gone. Despair came like a punch in the stomach. Someone had come into my room and stolen my money. It was all I had. Everything. The man sitting in an old chair did not take his eyes off the television. In a cold voice, without a hint of compassion, he replied, "Nobody touches anyone else's anything here. If you lost it, that's your problem." Then she slowly turned her head, as if she was the one who was bothering her. "Hey, your daily fee is due tomorrow. If you can't pay, you know what to do. You can pack your stuff and get out of here." It was like that, without a gesture of empathy, without a look of humanity. That man's coldness was worse than the robbery. He looked at her like someone who sees an insect on the path, without pity, without mercy, without any respect. Isabella stood there without reaction, without ground, without anyone. I wanted to scream, but my throat wouldn't let me. I wanted to punch the wall, but my arms wouldn't obey. Everything was falling apart again. Everything. She left the boarding house as if she were outside her own body. He walked slowly, with red eyes, a backpack on his back and his heart in pieces. Horns, sirens, hurried footsteps, laughter coming from somewhere, but inside the silence was deafening. Across the street there was a church. The half-open door let out a weak, almost extinguished light. Show me why I'm tired. Prove to me that the Lord is there, that He is listening to me. Because look at what is happening to me. It's one suffering after another, one wound on top of another. When I think it's going to get better, it gets worse. When I trust someone, it hurts me. I just wanted a place to sleep. I just wanted some peace. And the Lord, where is He? They say you're everyone's father, but if you're a father, why do you let me go through this? Is He like my father too, the one who abandoned me? Is He like the other one, who said He loved me and hurt me every night? Could it be that the Lord is also a father like that? A father who disappears, who pretends not to see, who says He loves but never shows up when we need Him most? Because honestly, it's hard to believe that the Lord exists, or that He loves me. Isabella curled up on the cardboard. Around her, some people were sleeping scattered on the sidewalk. Homeless people, torn blankets, bodies thrown like trash. A drunk man walked past her slowly and looked her up and down. She clutched her backpack to her chest, held her breath. He laughed to himself and staggered on. Another man walked by soon after, stopped, looked. She turned her face away, pretended to be asleep, her heart racing. Luckily, he didn't come back. Fear lived there, along with the cold, along with hunger, along with loneliness. She had never felt so alone, so forgotten, so broken. It was then that she heard a soft noise, small paws scratching the ground, a wet snout touching her arm, on the cardboard right next to her body, and stayed there as if he knew that she couldn't spend that night alone, as if someone had finally heard her prayer. She stroked him slowly and for the first time in a long time, felt that perhaps, only perhaps, God was still there, quiet, but present, a story that will last forever. The sun had barely begun to rise when Isabella woke up, startled by the light shining directly into her face and the soft sound of footsteps approaching. She squinted, confused, and saw two faces standing in front of her. It was a couple, hugging their backpacks to their chests. "Are you alone here?" Isabella could only shake her head silently. "Where are your parents? You're lost, aren't you?" the girl murmured in a choked voice. I have nowhere to go." The man, still serious, commented in a low voice to his wife. "She's very young. She doesn't look like a homeless person." The woman looked back at Isabella, her eyes filling with compassion. "What's your name, dear?" "Isabella. And how old are you?" 15. The woman sighed, visibly shaken. "We're going to open now, okay? This is our cafeteria. If you want, you can come in and have a coffee with us. Then you can tell me more about what happened. Is that okay?" Isabella hesitated for a moment, but there was something about that woman, something in her eyes that was different. She felt it slowly, still suspicious. Raquel, the woman, got up and opened the door to the cafeteria. The man, David, pushed the metal curtain and walked in right behind. "Come, sit here close by. I'll make you some bread with cheese and a hot coffee with milk, okay?" The girl entered timidly with light steps, as if the floor could give way at any moment. He carried his backpack tightly against his body, his gaze lowered and a distrust that seemed glued to his skin. She sat on one of the stools near the counter, silent. Her body hurt, her mind even more, and her heart. She couldn't even explain how it felt. Raquel placed the plate with the grilled cheese sandwich and the glass of coffee with milk in front of her. "Eat calmly, okay? We have time. Later if you want. Tell me what happened." The smell of food was strong. After a night out in the open, cold, scared, and with no direction, that gesture had another flavor. Isabella took the bread with both hands and bit into it slowly, feeling a deep relief. Someone was offering food without charging anything in return. She finished almost half of the mix before picking up the cup, took a sip of the coffee with milk. It was hot, and, this time, the heat didn't scare her. It comforted her. But even though his stomach was starting to settle, his throat was still burning. The pain was trapped there, right in the middle of his chest. She felt the urge to speak, to let it all out, but Raquel didn't pressure her. She just looked at her calmly, like someone who was really listening, even without words. At first he just gave me weird hugs and told me I was pretty, but then he started to rape me. Davi, who was behind the counter, slowly turned his head to listen to her. Isabella continued, swallowing her pain. I screamed for my brothers, tried to run away from him, but he covered my mouth and took me to the back of the house. Her voice broke, but Raquel didn't interrupt her. She just squeezed her hand on the table. When my mother arrived, I ran to her thinking she would protect me, but when I told her what he had done, she became cold. He said it was difficult for a man to accept a woman with 3 small children, that perhaps I was exaggerating, that it was normal for some men to like younger girls. Raquel put her hands over her mouth, horrified. David had already stopped touching the cutlery. Both of their eyes were teary. She said that he helped with the household bills, that if he left it would be my fault, and that I was already a big girl, that I had to start helping too. She said that when he wanted to live with him it was painful, a burden, but sometimes the sacrifice seemed inevitable. The silence in the cafeteria weighed on us. Raquel wiped away the tears that insisted on welling up. After the beginning of that agony, it was a daily, nightly martyrdom. He would appear, drag me to the back of the house, and I would return more and more empty, contaminated inside. I endured everything until I was 13, when puberty arrived. So, my mother warned me about the pregnancy, about the responsibility that would fall on her if it happened. Caution was needed, but he didn't stop. I couldn't take it anymore. David turned around, ran his hand over his face. Rachel, with tears in her eyes, took a deep breath, searching for strength. Isabella clutched the backpack in her lap and continued. I decided to run away. I didn't want to risk getting pregnant with that monster. I grabbed some clothes and left in the early hours of the morning. I lived in the countryside, a remote place. I walked for more than 4 hours to the main avenue. I asked for a ride. A truck driver stopped. He seemed good, said he would help me, took me to his cousin Maria, who owned a restaurant down the road. She welcomed me, gave me food, a bed. Luck, I thought. She shook her head with a bitter, sad laugh, but a week later she made a proposal. To stay, I would have to serve the truck drivers, sleep with them. I would earn part of the money. It was my choice. Otherwise, I would have to leave. Raquel covered her mouth in shock. I accepted. I had nowhere to go. I slept with disgusting men who mistreated me, forced me to do horrible acts, all for food, shelter. I became an object. I didn't recognize myself. I was disgusted by myself. I cried every night. I was beaten if I complained. I was humiliated. David approached and sat down, visibly moved. I held out as long as I could, ran away again, saved up some money, and got another ride here. I arrived, went to a boarding house, paid the daily rate, left my backpack, and went out to look for work. When I got back, everything was stolen, all my money. My God, Rachel muttered, devastated. I just wanted a decent job, a place where no one would use me, where I could sleep in peace without fear, that's all. David stood up and knelt down next to Isabella. Look, Isabella, you are welcome here. We will help you. Raquel held the girl's face. And if you still have faith, know that God has not forgotten you. He was just waiting for the right moment, and it has arrived. Isabella closed her eyes. Tears were streaming down her face. For the first time, she didn't feel dirty, guilty, weak. She felt welcomed. After hearing everything, Rachel and David exchanged a silent look, as if they already knew what to do. Raquel stood up, wiped her tears, and looked at Isabella tenderly. We have a little room at the back of the cafeteria. It's not big. It has a bed, a closet, an old fan, but it's clean, safe. It can be yours if you want to stay." Isabella looked at her, confused, suspicious, a promise too good to be true. "And I need help here," Raquel added. "Nothing heavy, just chores, cleaning, serving, organizing the kitchen, and if you want, you can work with us." She took a deep breath and said firmly, looking into the girl's eyes, "But I want you to know, Isabella, you are not dealing with just another Maria. No one here is going to use you. You are safe here. Do you understand?" David nodded seriously. "And we'll pay you properly every month, as it should be." Isabella's eyes filled with tears, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was a different kind of crying, almost hopeful. He tried to hold it back, but he couldn't. The tears fell heavily, liberating. "You don't know how much this means to me," he said, his voice breaking. "I've never had a real job, just other things. I thought I'd never get a chance again." Raquel held his hand firmly. "Well, now you have it, you will see your life improve." That night, Isabella slept in the small, simple room, but with a clean bed, a fragrant blanket, and a secure lock. For the first time in a long time, he slept properly, without fear, without screaming, without dirty hands in the dark. In the following days, she began to work. Raquel taught her everything patiently: how to arrange the bread, serve the coffee, organize the orders. Davi treated her with respect like a daughter. He never raised his voice. He asked how she was. They didn't invade your space, they didn't demand trust, they just gave you time. Isabella started to relax. She really smiled. She woke up with enthusiasm. She looked at her customers without looking down. And most importantly, she saw her own value. Every month she received her payment, Raquel said, "This is yours because you worked hard, because you deserve it." After 6 months, more confident, organized, with a firm routine, the couple called her for a chat. They were sitting at the same counter as before. "Isa," said David with a slight smile, "I think it's time to change things. This little room is too small for you, and we miss hearing your laugh at home. If you want, you can come live with us. There's space there. There's a room for you. And we already consider you part of our family," Raquel added. Isabella couldn't respond. The emotion came like a flood. You are the angels I asked for that night. God proved to me that He exists. He heard my prayer. And that's how she moved. She started living with them. As their daughter, Rachel called her my girl. David said she was the warrior of the house. She was relearning what it was like to have a family. The years passed. Isabella grew up quickly, became a beautiful, organized woman, loved by customers, became the manager of the snack bar, had a way with people, natural charisma, a firmness that only those who survived hell can have. Everyone respected her. Rachel and David treated her like a daughter, and she took care of them with the same dedication. When Raquel was sick, it was Isabella who prepared the tea. When Davy was tired, it was she who closed the cafeteria. The love between them was real, chosen, built. At 20 years old, one late afternoon, Davi called her to talk in the backyard. "Isa, Raquel and I were thinking, you need to start thinking about your future. We have that land there, nobody uses it, it's yours, to build your little house, have your own corner." She hugged them tightly, not knowing how to thank them for so much affection. The crying returned, but now it was a cry of accomplishment. "Be happy, my dear, and never again lose that beautiful smile that has been hidden for so many years." And so she did. She began to plan the house, a simple thing, 2 rooms, then 1 more. Brick, cement, hope. Every wall built was a healed scar. Every tile placed was a piece of the past being buried with dignity. It was at this time that he met Emilio, a calm, polite, hard-working young man, a delivery man for a supplier at the snack bar. Over time, they started talking. The meetings became longer. They exchanged looks, laughter, confidences. He knew about her past. He never pressured her. During 2 years of dating, he never touched her without permission. He never tried to rush her time. He waited, and he was loved for it. "I love you just the way you are, Isa, with your scars, your fears, and your strength. When you're ready, we'll build everything together." When she finally felt safe, they joined together in love and body, a conscious, light, respectful surrender. Soon after they got married, Raquel and Davi were the best men. With tears, speeches, and a bouquet given with gratitude, they built the house on the donated land, simple but full of love. And soon their 2 children arrived, a boy and a girl. Isabella was now mother and daughter. wife, and warrior. About the past, she says she buried it. She no longer carries hatred. She doesn't hold grudges. She just misses her brothers. She hopes to one day meet them again, maybe hug them, like the family she always wanted to be. But she left the trauma behind. And do you believe that God really heard Isabella's prayer? Or was it just a coincidence? A simple stroke of fate? If you are enjoying our stories, subscribe to the channel, comment, and leave your like. Don't miss this story that is currently on the screen. I'm sure you will like it. See you in the next video.